This broadcast is appropriate for all ages right here on hashtag WeAreMovieClub. It's time for Bad Movie Club. Salutations, I am Cameron, and I am conversation ready. Penny, I remember. This is where we get together to talk about movies, ideas so horrible they're made manifest for us to be disgusted by. However, we were watching this over in Rabbit/Cameron, and we kind of had a couple discussions. It came up a couple times that like whether or not this really deserves to be bad movie club material. And there's some stuff in there where it's definitely like, oh yes, this is a bad movie. And there's other times where it's like you completely forget that like maybe you're watching something that's less than par. Travolta's in it, and I remember him not being super great. I remember saying like, oh, this is a Travolta movie, so it's a bad movie. But he did okay. He wasn't so bad. His character was a little crazy, so I'm gonna leave that to the character and not Travolta himself. It wasn't like he was hamming the part up a lot or anything like that. We're gonna go ahead and bust through this really quick because I'm still on the fence personally. I like The Punisher. We're doing this more as an excuse for me to go back and watch old comic book movies more so than it actually being a bad movie. So we're going to go ahead and do Warzone, its sequel next week, but then we're going to go do the Captain America movie where he hijacks cars. Cars, plural. He does it twice. Okay, so this is the 2004 Punisher that we're talking about. We open on shitty credits, and then we open on a ship in a harbor. Two guys walking up to make a deal, if you will. They're challenged as being possible police by someone who does not fucking know what anything looks like. He's in like a white suit with weird blonde, frosted-tipped hair and some kind of accent. He's worse than my accent, no? Otto Creed. And one of the new guys gets killed. At this point, we don't know left from right, so we have no real context for any of this, which was soon revealed that he's actually a mobster's son. Mickey's a dumbass who didn't get authorization to upgrade his illegal dealings, if you will. Turns out Otto Creed was an undercover cop, but the kid's really dead because he didn't get down in time and some other asshole fired. It's what happens at an arms deal. Just saying. So, a mansion which is obviously a mob house. The person who's obviously the boss gets word. I don't know. You can't tell if it's his mistress or whatever, but it's his wife. She kind of faints. And obviously, given the context that it's her son, that's the grief she's going through. He just comes back and says to a guy, bail him out. He doesn't say it like that. It's not like he's a Boston mobster. It's not like he's from Chicago or anything telling him to go bail him out. He's Howard saying he's Travolta. He's like, bail him out. Hey! Boo. At the precinct, Mickey walks on out, gets picked up by mobsters to a resounding, don't hit me, don't hit me. I really liked that line. It was really cute. I wonder if he improvised that. So back at the mansion, they kick the shit out of him. They interrogate him, but they let him live because he's loyal. But Mr. Saint comes in, and he acts like he's going to shoot Mickey regardless, and he shoots another guy because that guy was assigned to babysit his son. And he shoots him like 3 times, leaving with my son does not need to impress me type of thing, because the guy was just making excuses left and right, one of them being which he thought he could impress you. At the house, movers are packing up. Mom turns around on instinct, and Frank's in the doorway. Frank Castle, the previous Otto Creed, if you will. I did skip over like them celebrating, and he's even like a good enough cop that like he stopped the celebration and was like, let's take a moment for everybody who died during this mission, because that's the type of guy he is. He's super straight and narrow. So at the house, back of the house, like they're talking. This is the last one. Your son doesn't believe it. I'll go talk to him. And they have like this nice little bonding moment where he is talking to his son about it. Back at the morgue, Mr. Saint's identifying his dead son, and he's basically interrogating the cop for information on how to chase down this Otto Creed. We cut to some island, like... Sorry, hold on. And he sets Quentin, his personal assistant, basically, his right hand, if you will, like on to handle business. On some island, which turns out to be Puerto Rico. The family's having a fun at a reunion. It's all happy, happy, joy, joy. And then he basically is going to bang his wife on the beach. And she says something along the lines of, like, we're not lucky, we're blessed. Which I think comes back in the movie a few times. I won't mention it because I think it's a really underhanded thing. Because it's a very, like, it's the perfect moment for a big line. And I think they feel like they squandered it. But I don't know what to put there, so I'll shut up now. At the funeral, the Saints are there. It's the Saints' funeral for their son. Quentin finds out about Frank Castle, who was the undercover Otto Creed. Mr. Saint sends Quentin to go kill him. And Mrs. Saint, in her very clear, unaggrieved mind, orders the death of Frank Castle's entire family. Even Mr. Saint questions this. Really? That's what you want? Do it. Like, just please take it back, please take it back, do it. So, but if the mob boss, who's so unhinged, thinks it's extreme, then maybe. But that's my experience. Is like anybody who is already that unhinged at the seat of power, they attract crazy people who like the same thing. So, But back in Puerto Rico, the mob guys march in to kill Frank's entire family. There's little kids playing around. There's old people grilling hamburgers. And they start out really shitty. Like, this is a huge, great scene. Don't get me wrong. It may not be the best scene, but it's up there. They start with, like, a single shot on Grandma, which I thought was kind of a shitty way to, like, give everybody fair warning. Because you would think it would cause them to scatter. It's going to do one of two things. It's either someone's going to fire... and then Grandma's down, so everyone's going to huddle around her, so it makes a bigger target, or everyone's going to start scattering because it's gunfire. Really, neither one of these things happen. They just start shooting into the crowd, because everyone's already gathered for food anyways, for the most part. But Mom and son are out on the beach. There's a couple other people scattered around, so the guys have to walk around and mop that up. Frank and his dad happen to be in the room with all the guns. So they grab some stuff and start firing back. There's a couple cool shots in there. There's one where they shoot a propane tank, blow up the guy because he's taking cover behind the barbecue. The mob guys are pretty thorough though. Like they kill some people under the house. There's a guy out on a boat that they managed to shoot. Mom and son are going for a car. They get spotted running, and the mob has to go chase them down. Oh, okay, so that's shot. Frank's dad ends up getting shot, but he manages to knife the guy before he dies. And the guy actually keeps coming. Like, he fucks up Frank pretty good before Frank can get out of there. Let's just be honest. Let's call the hits as they lie, right? So the mob's pursuing Mom in the truck. Damn, I just had a moment. Oh, Frank pursues on a bike. I'm sorry, I completely lost my place there. Wow. So professional. Mom ends up crashing the car because, quite frankly, it was inevitable. They crawl out of it. The kid's got like a broken arm. They seek help at this closed restaurant, which I don't know what the rules in Puerto Rico are. You would think somebody would have been around nearby. They wouldn't have been that isolated. Or if they'd been that isolated, they would have realized other people with guns were marching in. I don't know. But the kid has a cool idea, and they run down the pier to go to Grandpa's boat. The mobsters, being mobsters and hitmen and whatnot, just drive the car straight down the pier and run them down. So, because if you're not going to jump over the ledge, then what is it? What is there to be had for you? On the very least, I would imagine she would have thrown the kid over the pier, over the edge of the railing. Sorry. Frank arrives right after, basically just to see his freshly killed wife and son. The mobsters turn the truck around at the end of the pier and come back at him. He manages to fire at them, runs out of ammo, and they kick the ever-loving shit out of him. Like, just really, like, give it to him. They manage to plug him in the chest, but not anywhere vital, apparently. 2 in the head. Be done with it. And they burn the fuel dock that he's on, which explodes and sends him craning into the ocean, where he washes up on shore. Back in the city, Mickey's a valet. He's kissing ass. He's very much alive. They kept up to that end of their word, at least. The mansion gets word that Frank's family's dead. Mr. Saint looks like he's allowed to ravish Mrs. Saint. I don't know what that sex is like, because that's avenging our dead son sex, which means that, like, the dead son's part of it, and I don't know what to do with that. But I'm pretty sure she's just gonna lay there for that one, anyways. Because it looked like just permission, go. But Frank washes up on shore. He manages to heal enough to go back to his cabin, or at least where, like, his dad's guns were. He gets the skull shirt that his son gave him, and he leaves to go kill the mob. It's everything you need. A couple guns and a shirt, right? Back in the city, Frank gets an apartment. The neighbors notice him. He works on his car a lot. Like, he even installs, like, metal shutters, which I thought was actually kind of a cool touch. It's a really loud car, which means it's strong, which should mean it's fast. He works on safety-proofing his apartment, and there's a couple laughable things for this, but they're really more punchlines later in the fight with the Russian. And I'll point those out, don't you worry. So Frank ends up kidnapping Mickey because he's the one guy he knew from the arms deal. And he strings him up by chains in his apartment. Like, he's got, like, a garage apartment. So, like, he's got... I don't even know how to describe this. He's obviously got somewhere where he can put his car, like, in a garage. And then that has some kind of access to upstairs where his actual loft apartment is. And there's actually, like, a elevator in between... It goes in between the two, because why wouldn't there be? It's a really odd apartment, but he chains him up upside down, lights a blowtorch, roasts some meat next to the guy, and sticks him with a popsicle until he talks. So, and Mickey, because he's a wuss, spills everything and becomes a double agent. Because why wouldn't you? I hate the Saints. There's a couple events that happen. One of the ones I really like that's kind of iconic for Punisher is that he takes his gravestone, Frank Castle's gravestone, and puts it on Howard Saint's tee off. Like, it's like at the end of his first hole on this golf course. The timing of that had to have been magnificent. Like, he's nice enough to put it to the side of the hole so other people can play through. But if Saint has tea time every morning, during the week, every morning, then he should be the first one through, in theory. So, and then he reveals himself to the police. He chews them out for not arresting anybody at the bank, or I call it a bank, but who knows what it is. It's a money laundering facility is really what it is. But Frank robs it, and he throws a bunch of Mr. Saint's money out the window, in singles too, so people can riot and collect it. So that's nice of him. On his way out, he happens to take enough money for himself, whatever fits in a suitcase, a couple million probably. Money's real small. Like, $1 million is not like a pallet. $1 million fits in a briefcase. It might be a large briefcase, but but it fits. I mean, because you got to imagine a stack of 100s makes 1,000. That's just that. 10 of those makes 100,000, something like that. So 10 of those is all $1 million is. But he ends up having this Mexican standoff, and like I want to like put in the like do Western noises and stuff. We had an argument about this because we were watching this on Rabbit/Camera, and we were talking about Westerns, and someone who is too young to know what Westerns were. It's like talking about the Westerns that like their Opa watches, and it was really funny, honestly, because it's like, I know you don't know shit, but you're not wrong that like the spaghetti Western things that they would watch like aren't anything like this movie, but the movie has a lot of construction styles that actually mimic or mirror those movies, like this Mexican standoff with the two guys. It's incredible odds. It's a standoff of bravado and machoism that, quite frankly, the movie doesn't need, but it is what it is. But it was a cool little scene. It's very short. Back at the mansion, Mr. Saint's investigators are upset. They're complaining because their money's getting lost, and they're not getting a return on investment. You know how you are when like you put money into a stock and the stock craps out and everybody in the street gets it. Yeah, like that. Back at the apartments, Joan's date is being an asshole. It's like real late. He's pounding on the door, making noise, calling her a bitch. All this stuff. All the things that you would say to a person to get them to open the door feeling safe and secure. You know, like that. And I don't know why he pretends like other people aren't going to be pissed off by it. So the neighbors come out and tell him to... It's really late, man. It's like, you should leave right now, John Panay. I miss John Panay. Ben Foster says he's going to call the cops. He's trying to stick up for Joan. Good for him. And the dude slaps him around. Frank comes out. And the guy's like, now this? We got a tough guy. And he recognizes that Frank might be a threat because he pulls out a butterfly knife instead of just using his hands. And Frank just punches him. And he takes the knife from him and he whacks him on the head with it. And he's like, you shouldn't play with knives. Frank escorts him out of the building, rather nicely given the scenario, but everyone else is kind of in shock. I think Ben Foster's character says something along the lines like, no one's ever stood up for me before. And then John Panay takes him to go put some like frozen peas or something on his face. And then Joan talks to Frank, thanks him, and then gives him unsolicited advice. Unsolicited advice is what I wrote down. About his life. Frank doesn't care, but Frank's also like a dead drunk at this point too, so whatever. Outside, Frank does stuff like plant a fire hydrant next to Mrs. Saint's car, plants earrings, like one, what was it? Like one in her car, and then one in Quentin's bed or something like that. He calls Quentin with like a voice changer. It's like, hello, Quentin. Hello, Quentin. Do you want to play a game? Something like that. It's Quentin. Do you want to play a game? That actually would have been funny. What's your favorite scary movie? Hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish. I miss Scream. I don't care what people think of it, that it's dated, it's old, whatever. It said things about movies. It was meta when not enough movies were. It was meta about horror movies when not enough horror. It was Cabin in the Woods before Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods just took the idea of Scream and went one further. But now I'm talking about different movies than the See, this is what I'm talking about. The movie doesn't give you enough to concentrate on, so I get distracted. And now I just want to do that the Scream voice. So, let's see. Back at the mansion, Mr. Saint starts getting interested in the whereabouts of Mrs. Saint and Quentin, and when they're together, when they're not. And they go see movies like every Thursday together, and they talk about the movies for a while. It's not like it's an uncommon thing that they hang out. But at this diner restaurant thing. The whole apartment crew's there. Apparently, it's where Joan works. And Ben Foster and John Panay are sitting at the counter having pancakes or waffles or whatever fat guys eat that day. And then Frank is having like bacon and eggs or something over by himself because I want to be part of a family, but I can't let myself be part of a family anymore. It's really heavy-handed, but of course, Punisher. It's a very heavy-handed premise for, I can't say hero, vigilante. Really. But the creepiest motherfucker comes in with a guitar, and like he does everything in like a very purposeful manner. And he comes in, he sits down, he's just staring at Frank. Bacon. And he like puts down his guitar case in a very awkward manner and staring at Frank, just mean mugging him. And then like he opens the case very slowly, and Frank kind of reaches for his gun. Doesn't stop eating eggs though. Frank loves his eggs, and he pulls out the guitar in like a slow, purposeful manner, and Frank relaxes a little bit. I don't know why you would relax in this scenario. Frank knows that people are gunning for him. He is hiding. Let's be honest. He is hiding. And then this creep obviously recognizes and comes for him. But I guess in Frank's world, you just can't shoot someone for playing guitar at you. Just saying. So he plays him like this really creepy, weird serenade. Then kind of introduces himself. I think he gives him a card, even. And this is obviously a serial killer hitman guy that just has had way too many successes and doesn't know what to do with himself. So shortly after that, Frank's driving away, and sure enough, Harry Heck like barrels down at him as he's waiting for a bridge to rise, because in New York there's bridges that rise apparently. I don't know what they are. And he kind of rams him from behind. But Frank manages to position the car just so that he can get his shutters in place before Harry Heck comes out with a very problematic weapon for me. Like, it's not that it doesn't exist. It's not that like it just is awkward because it's a grenade launcher shape. And I know that you can put different kinds of rounds in there. So, but it's like it's shooting shotgun shells, so it's shooting like buckshot at the side of the car, so you can see the spray happen, and it uses a shotgun-ish sound, where instead of the thunk that you would normally expect out of a grenade launcher. So let's just assume that it's a shotgun. It's an assault shotgun with a drum style magazine, which is just awkward to have a magazine on a shotgun, anyways. It just looked weird. I was like, what's going on? If that had happened with me being deaf, I would have been very confused. The whole point of this comes down to Frank ended up crawling away out of his car, because I don't even remember like what happened between me being confused with the gun and Heck ends up walking up with a pistol and is like, man, you really are one dumb son of a bitch. You brought a knife to a gunfight, because Frank's just holding an unswitched switchblade, and then he switches, and the knife shoots out of the switchblade and into the guy's neck. So, well played. I really like the projectile knife type of weapon. I think it's cute. But it should be like an option. Like, you should have to like switch off the safety or something. You should still be able to like cut your eggs with it. But so that was cool. So like Frank is like, it is made very clear to Frank at this point, I think, that like people are after him. We cut away to a boat. We see the Living Saint's son unloading like merchandise, and there's a claymore in it. And I about shit myself there too, because yes, claymores explode. They are usually plastic. They have C4, and then they have ball bearings on one side. That is not a huge. It's still an explosion. It's still a big explosion, but it's not a crazy like super grenade explosion that they make it out to be. It should have been like an initial boom, and then as all the shrapnel goes. And I'm just curious because like he had it face down into the merchandise, into the bottom of the boat, but the guy turned it up. So, and it definitely wouldn't have caused all these secondary explosions. It's very odd. And even a grenade, like when it explodes, it's not the explosion itself that usually like destroys everyone. It's the shrapnel from the hard metal casing. So I didn't know what to do with that. Like it didn't seem right, and we didn't have enough test claymores go off in the army, so I don't know what to do for it. Man. But it just felt wrong. I'm just saying it took me out of the scene for a minute. Back at the mansion, Mr. Saint's upset. The investors upset. Mr. Saint threatens the investors, which is always good to do to the people who give you money. Just saying. Back at the apartments, Ben Foster lies to Frank in order to invite him to dinner. Because that's what you do when you want someone to come over and have... what was it? It was like a casserole of some kind. You tell them that someone's threatening someone's life. You get out of here. I'm not dealing with you right now. So he comes over and he ends up having a nice dinner because he sees what they're trying to do. And he goes... Or yeah, they try to set him up too. Like, I thought this was nice. They went the extra mile. They try to go get dessert and leave Frank and Joan alone. But it's not a romantic scene. It really looks like the beginning of a porno that never kicks off. Because it just doesn't feel romantic. It doesn't, on either end, it doesn't feel romantic. It's very contrived. It's like, and 3, 2, 1, take your clothes off and bone. That sort of thing. That's what you get. I told you to stop, dumbass. For the record, I just pushed my cat off the edge of the desk because she won't stop moving the microphone. I did tell her to stop. You saw me. You're alive, right? Yeah, you asshole. Okay. So Frank goes home to get a drink because it's not the moment for them. There's another knock at the door, and sure enough, it's the one and only Kevin Nash in his 7 feet of glory. So even Frank's like, oh my. Go on. But Joan goes over to John Panay's to goof off with the guys because she's not scoring. And Kevin Nash just spends some time whooping up on Frank. He's basically uses Frank as a tool to clean his apartment very poorly. While Frank, oh look, I have a list of things that Frank did to him. He does this swinging drop kick from the ceiling, like because he's got chains. Of course he does. He's got chains above his the elevator in his apartment. So like he swings like Tarzan into Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash just does one of these. He ends up knifing Kevin Nash in the chest. Then Kevin Nash takes it out and gives him one. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's a machine arm that's there, and he just kind of whacks him with it a couple times. Oh yeah, he hits him with a crowbar, and then Kevin takes it from him. Several kicks and punches just all over the place. There's a really problematic scene, or a couple problematic scenes. Like Frank ends up going for a gun, and he has to hit the table just right, and it comes out, and Kevin's actually able to go, oh come on, really? Put his hand down and smash it with a free weight he just keeps on his person. And then Frank tries to grenade Kevin Nash because he stuck a grenade in the bathroom, and he put like an automatic closing door there as well, which I really liked. I really thought that was a cool idea. I want one. But he jumps in, he throws the grenade, he uses the automatic closing door, and he takes cover. But the wall right next to the door is made of glass, so I don't know what the fuck he thought he was doing. So Kevin Nash just hits it with a crowbar. It bounces back into the bathroom. Frank jumps in the freaking bathtub of all things, and sure enough, it keeps him just safe enough for Nash to come get him. And at this point, Nash is like, okay, we've cleaned your apartment. I now have to use you to go clean the neighbors. So he puts him through John Panay's door. And then Frank ends up using the boiling water from the pasta because, let's face it, John Bonet is a fat guy, playing a fat guy who doesn't ever stop eating. And it's like, that's just what it is. And so he hits him with the boiling water. It burns his face. They did a really good job with that. This is my favorite scene in the movie, by the way. This is not a big scene, but it's my favorite scene. Like him fighting the Russian, if you can't tell. And then like Frank ends up pushing him down the stairs, and apparently it breaks his neck. So the Russian finally dies, and Frank passes out. This is quickly followed up by Quentin and the boys coming in to try to interrogate Frank and finish him off, honestly. But they just find John Panay and Ben Foster's hanging out in his apartment for whatever reason. And then Joan had taken Frank into the elevator, which I really can't tell where it goes, because the way they made it look like is that the elevator goes into the floor and stops. But Joan's just trying to cover Frank's mouth long enough for Frank to stay passed out until Quentin's done with Ben Foster, because he essentially just starts going to him and ripping out piercings to get him to talk. And eventually Quentin gets tired of it and he goes, I guess they didn't know nothing. And they all leave. But they leave a guy behind, because obviously they know something. So as soon as Quentin and the boys leave, man, just that scene, it's getting to me, because it's kind of graphic. I take it back, it's not graphic. I remember Hostel, that was graphic. But Joan gets Frank's sewing kit. Oh, that was beforehand, sorry. Joan just happens to notice, so Ben Foster knows Frank likes alcohol. Those are the key points there. So let's see. Frank emerges from underground like he just banged Joan, like he's standing tall and everything. Papa needs a spinach. Frank kills a guard with a paper cutter, which I thought was an interesting choice. And I'm not even sure why he had a paper cutter like that, but that's what he did with it. And if you've ever really looked at those things don't cut paper because they're sharp. They cut paper because of physics, that like you're actually pinching it off, but in a very fine way. And you can literally cut into your hand that way, but it takes a little bit of magic. So for him to just shove a piece of metal into the guy's head, impressive. And Frank kind of writes a manifesto. He leaves it to take it. He leaves to take on the Saints to go to war. Joan's very upset about this, but like his little manifesto thing is all about like, let us be clear. This is what happened. This is what's happening. For the record, if I don't come out of this alive, here's what I was trying to do, type of thing. But back at the mansion, Frank's fucking with the Saint's paranoia again. Mr. Saint's accusing Quentin of fucking his wife. He ends up stabbing him. But obviously at this point we know that Quentin's gay, so Mr. Saint's just crazy. Mr. Saint accuses Mrs. Saint of cheating on him with Quentin. She treats him like he's a crazy person, which you should never do. Yells at him that Quentin was gay. Wrong time to give him new information, especially condescendingly. And he backhands her because what are you going to do at that point? You have to justify murdering your best friend. You know how it is. But he takes her to the car to a bridge. He starts sharing like little nice moments that they had. I guess he's trying to talk himself out of killing her. But they get to the bridge. They get out of the car. I don't know what she thinks going to happen. But he kisses her, picks her up in his arms, and she's acting like he's being so sweet and romantic and powerful. And then he tosses her over the railing. She drops onto the railroad tracks, incoming train. Amazing timing that he knew the train was coming right then. Just saying. Man. Of course, the train does her in. Back at the mansion, Mr. Saint has a room full of hitmen, mercenary gangsters, or whatever, with like a very ominous statement of like, if you accept this money, you are in until the job is done. 50K a piece, 50K more to the guy for actually killing him. That's what you do when you're a mob boss. It's like you pay other people to do your job, unless you're Kingpin, of course. But and then you're still doing that. Let's be honest. There's some building that they're at. It's obviously the Saint building, but it's not the mansion. I don't think it's the money laundering facility that he robbed earlier. I could be wrong. But Frank arms up and he goes to war. He uses a bow for stealth, which I thought was a nice touch. Given the amount of guns that he's probably going to roll in there with, carrying a quiver of arrows is a ballsy move. He uses a knife for stealth. It's even like this little hook ring thing. I thought was cute. He puts a bomb in the champagne, not for stealth, but for ambiance. Just saying. And then he goes live with this AR-15. He's got a 203 grenade launcher on there if you know weapons. If not, I said everything you need to know. It's an assault rifle with a grenade launcher on it that he doesn't get to use because somebody keeps shooting it out of his hand. So he goes, "Oh, pistols are smaller." And he just shoots everybody up with pistols, which I thought was funny. Plus the mines that he's using, the anti-personnel mines is what he calls it. And he rigs those on the exits and in a couple of key positions. And eventually he finds the living son, and he does something which I thought was really cool. He basically gives him a dead man switch. If you don't know what that is, it's when you use my phone as an example. My phone's too big. So my thumb depresses, and then when I release, that's when the bomb goes off. It's actually useful for a safety precaution, because normally you have to either flick a switch and then press a button, but you can, with the dead man position, you can flick a switch, press a button, and then on the release, you can still do it. Because up until the point of release, you can still put the safety on and then release and undo it. So you can, so it's better for controlled demolition. But what he does with this one is that he puts, he basically there's a pin in it, and he has the guy who's pinned down put it in his outstretched arm. If you just do this long enough with nothing, put your phone in your hand. Just do this. Just do that. That's all you need to do. And I can already feel my arm not strain. Strain's the wrong word, but I can feel the exertion. Exertion doesn't mean you're exhausted. It just means that you're putting effort into it. Do that for 5 minutes. It's a fun exercise. More people should do it more often. So that's what he was doing with a 8-pound bomb. And then the pin was tied to the ceiling, essentially. So if he let go of it or he put his arm down, he exploded. And sure enough, that's what happens. But he's... Castle's all the way outside talking to Saint at that point. It's like, "You killed my son!" Boom. Both of them. It's a really cool moment. It's those type of moments that's like, yeah, this is a shitty movie, but I like it. It's the kind of shitty movie I like. And so he even gives Saint a chance to do a draw, and that's classic Western. It's like, "Okay, punk, you feeling lucky?" And you'd go for the quick draw, but of course he beats him in a quick draw because dude never had a chance. And then he rubs his murderer's face, and he rubs his murders. It's like, "I got you to kill your best friend. Got you to kill your wife." And he ties Saint's legs to the back of a car, which was a really odd touch. He puts a mine on the back of the car for good measure. He sets the car to drive away, and it's just this slow on the screen anyways. And then he remotes detonate an entire lot of cars, and I couldn't figure out why the fuck he did that. Because it seems like it was just a lot of terrifying Mr. Saint for a while. And then sure enough, the bomb on the car goes off, but the motor doesn't know that. So, all this fuel and fire hits the ground, drags Mr. Saint through it, and he goes up crispy style. Extra delicious. Man. And sure enough, we pan up, and it's a big skull symbol in the lot. Totally unnecessary collateral damage, by the way. And sure enough, Frank goes home to drink. Because that's what he does. He does almost kill himself. This is a little bit different. But he has some kind of flashback of his wife. And I don't know which part of that was stay alive. Not only stay alive, but go bang your neighbor. I don't know. I got lost in translation a little bit. But he does leave this like stack of bills for all the neighbors, and he takes off. But I mean, my point was not like that he went and banged Joan. It was that like he had a kind of semi-romantic conversation with her, and he could have. He was in a place where he would have allowed himself to, but he had other people to go punish, and it wasn't Joan. Lots of fun jokes about that in a sexual nature, by the way, over Rabbit/Camerai. Come join us. We watch bad movies on Sundays right before we watch good movies. It's always good to watch a bad movie and then a palate cleanser, if you will. And then Fridays we do scary movies for Scary Movie Squad. This whole thing may end up rebranding. I feel bad sometimes, but Craptastic Films? I don't know. We'll see. Keep tuned. Let us know over at WeAreMovieClub or at Camerai25 on the Twitters. Till you see us next time, have a nice day. Here at hashtag WeAreMovieSquad. Hashtag WeAreMovieClub. This has been Bad Movie Club.